Hello, everyone. In a previous video, I talked about the distinctness of socialism with California values. And it occurs to me that we've been here before. We did, in fact, in the teeth of the Great Depression, offer such a socialism in the face of other competing socialisms that today probably wouldn't be recognized as such. The time was the Great Depression, and it started with a financial crash and ended up seriously setting back the world's capitalist economy so badly that in the Soviet Union, their new economic policy faltered. Their engagement with the capitalist world market uh, faltered because that capitalist world market faltered. So, what was left? Well, in Germany, a demagogue by the name of Adolf Hitler offered something he called National Socialism, but it became very immediately evident that this was, in fact, a German version of Italy's fascism. He knew it. Mussolini knew it. Everybody knew it. He just used the term to draw millions of Germans to his cause. Meanwhile, what replaced the NEP in the Soviet Union was something that Stalin called socialism in one country. He turned his back on internationalism and he empowered his bureaucracy at the expense of Soviet democracy. So socialism wasn't exactly getting a good name, but capitalism was in ruins. Well, uh, this threw leaders around the world into a loop because it threatened them all. Okay? As well as the majority in every country. It threatened the leaders because it threatened the majority, and the majority was in a mood to strike back. In the US, you had FDR casting about for anything that would beat the Depression. And he himself said that we'll try this, and if it doesn't work, we'll try something else, and we'll keep trying until we find something that works. That something, or a series of policies, came to be known as the New Deal. Until World War II came along, and the U.S. was dragged kicking and screaming into it. So what was happening in California? Well, we were experiencing the same problems as the U.S. was. But in 1934, our gubernatorial candidate, a socialist by the name of Upton Sinclair, did manage to capture the Democratic nomination for governor. And unlike FDR, who was just gassing about for just anything, Sinclair had a plan that he promulgated through his Epic clubs in poverty in California. And to do that, he envisioned three new entities. The first would be California Authority for Land, that would turn unused farmland over to farmers fleeing from other areas whose farms were going under. They could reestablish themselves on unused farms thanks to the California Authority for Land. The second was the California Authority for Production, that would employ people at shut down factories. It would open them back up and employ people there, California Authority for Production. And the third element was the California Authority for Money, which was supposed to pay for the first two. Okay, so that was what Upton Sinclair had in mind. Today, in the 21st century, we find ourselves in a different sort of crisis. One wouldn't exactly call it a Great Depression, but it is the sixth mass extinction, which is far worse. Okay. The changes in policies have to go deeper than they did in the case of poverty in California. because if not, it is we humans who will be ended. Okay, so let's see if we can come up with a 21st century version of the EPIC plan. First thing is the authority for land. It resides with those whose land it is and was stolen. They are the ones who have the authority on the land. And we need to restore that. How can we do that? Well, when we're independent, all of a sudden, that almost half of California, which is untaxed federal land, becomes available to be returned immediately. Beyond that, when you look at what Sinclair had in mind for his California Authority on Land, it was modeled actually on the Mexican ejido system, which was, until 1994, enshrined in Article 27 of the Mexican Constitution. So we can restore that. Okay, the two Baja states can restore it. Alta can incorporate it. And that gives us the authority to return the land and to also take existing housing stock and redistribute it such that we can end homelessness. Indeed, we can use the property tax system to end homelessness. And property taxes can then become a form of rent paid to those from whom the land was stolen. So we have very real expansions, if you would, concretizations of Upton Sinclair's California for land. California Authority for Production. Well, we're not in a Great Depression, although that could happen at any time. We are in a crisis, economic crisis compounded or compounding a crisis of survival as a species due to climate change. So our authority for production would have to, not so much fire up shut down factories, of which there aren't that many, but rather repurpose existing plants to build what it is we need. Okay. We look at the experiment that took place in Chile in the early 1970s with Checo, which was a concretization using 1970s technology, no less, of Professor Stafford Beer's Project Cybersyn. And we go, well, what about Calico? That is to say, our Project Cybersyn. Goodness knows Silicon Valley is right here. And we could do it a lot more effectively as far as coming up with and implementing economic planning here than they could in Chile using 1970s technology. So coming up with Calico, CyberNet Calico, as our California Authority on Production should be no problem. Again, we're not trying to control everything. We are just trying to repurpose production to be for